Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I was like, what do I play for this as far as music goes? And I figured Sylvester makes perfect sense because A, if you watch the Further Tales of the City miniseries that Showtime did, as they're driving down to LA, they're listening to this in the car. So, the thing about Armistead Maupin is that he's iconic among literary circles. He's iconic in the gay community, the queer community in general. I believe Anna Madrigal, spoiler alert, is one of the most important transgender characters in all of literature. She's not the first, not the last. She's one of the most important, though, for many, many reasons. But could you imagine a whole generation of people having a mother figure that's a trans woman? It's just so beautiful to me, and I think he knew what he was doing. Armistead, was very forward-thinking in that character, believe me. Now, getting back to why I'm here to celebrate Armistead in general, just as a human being, because he's a glorious human being. But as a writer, he's written many things outside of the tales realm. The Night Listener is scary and creepy, and Maybe the Moon is a book that everyone should read, that someone needs to adapt this book into something beyond the book. Because the book is fantastic, but there should be a movie or maybe even a series based on the book, because it is so good. And it's an unsung book that is, I never hear anybody ever talk about it. And, I'm imagining that the Tales series sort of like overshadows his whole career, which makes sense. It's an amazing series of books. Now, my Tales story starts, I guess, personally because my mother's brother, my uncle, lived in San Francisco as a kid. So anybody who's watching this, anybody who knows me pretty much knows my uncle's story, because I love talking about him because he's one of my greatest heroes. But when I tell you that I would not be the person I am today without him, I totally wouldn't. But he left New Jersey when I was a baby and went to San Francisco and sort of just blossomed and became this whole other being out there, his true self, okay? So I guess I was always enamored by that. I always loved that concept, the bravery it took to do that as well. He was a big queer person that needed to live in a place where that was sort of more allowed and accepted, So I always had, in my mind, San Francisco was always this like far off place that was like magical and amazing. And this is before I even knew Tales existed. But then when the PBS miniseries came out, was my first introduction to Armistead and his world. And I didn't know the books existed. I was a kid. I was a teenager at the time. No excuse, but it's how it is. And I just remember seeing that miniseries for the first time when it aired originally. I was fairly young. But then a few years later, I sought it out on, of all things, VHS. There was a store upstairs in the Willowbrook Mall that was a record store that had, you could order things, but they only had tape 1 and tape 3. And I was so closeted, I was afraid to ask the person to get the second tape so I could get all 3 tapes. God. Tales of the City, Tales from My Closet are hilarious. I should do a whole video on the things I did during that time. I was only really in the closet till I was a teenager, but I really worked it while I could. Anyway, so the miniseries, I eventually rewatched it again and really became pretty much obsessed with it once I eventually bought all 3 tapes. And the long story short, too late, is that I started to read the books. And, oh my God, of course I started with the beginning, and I read the entire series at that time, and it was really impactful. It was, first of all, they're so well written. They're written like little, stanzas. I'm not sure if anybody watching this knows the full story, so I'll tell you just in case. Tales of the City started off as a serialized column in a newspaper, okay? And then it grew and grew and grew, and then eventually he got a publishing deal to turn it into a book. So and I think that's so cool. But it reads almost like that in these little like snippets, and it's so fun to read. I struggle with reading. I always have my whole life, just due to ADD and stuff like that. But these are very easy books to read. I would say if I can read this whole series, anybody can. And it doesn't mean that they're, I can't explain what I'm trying to say here, but they're well-written, complicated books, but they're just fun to read. And chapters often end on cliffhangers, so you just can't. And then the next chapter will pick up totally where something else left off, and you're like, oh man, what happened to whatever? The characters in this book are like family to me. Ever since I read the books, I actually think about them like they're real people, They piss you off like Marianne does eventually. She redeems herself, but at the end of the series, man, oh God, is she like not a good person? But that happens in life. I mean, this is real. This is not, Armistead does not give you like anything you want to hear. He gives you what he wants to give you, and you just digest it and absorb it. So yeah, spoiler alert. if you haven't read the series, maybe, I'm not going to give anything like so crazy away here, but certain things like that. But characters like Michael, who as a gay man, he's so special to me, to see his life like kind of played out, and especially as a teenager reading the first couple books, getting some kind of like let's just play Sylvester in general, okay? Let's do that, because or we could do play similar artists. Let's do that. I think it's gonna, so that's good. Anyway, we're just gonna, the music doesn't really matter to me. I just want something to play in the background. Maybe not this though. This is good. All right. Yeah, T-Connection. So, Michael is the absolute hero of the series. He sort of goes through the entire thing, and his love life is really fun to watch, and the way he interacts with his girlfriends is really adorable. And it's funny, I call my one friend Marion Baby Cakes because he calls Mona Baby Cakes, and she reminds me of Mona, and I want to be like Mouse. By the way, Mouse is what she calls him. His name is Michael. It's so cool to hear. It's like they're so adorable. Marianne, Brian, like the whole cast of characters is amazing. They all live in a house owned and run by Anna Madrigal, who's this ethereal, glorious creature who, and I mean, I'm just saying, the most amazing human being I've ever come across in literature. So you want her to be your mother, on every sense of the word. Your spiritual mother, the person you can confide in. She just gives you that kind of energy, And the long and short of it is that Anna is a trans woman, and her just being there in general is groundbreaking and super powerful. And as a young teenager, I believe that's where my advocacy towards my trans family started, because who are you more defensive over than your mother? All right, and Anna is like a mother to us, to all of us. If you read those books and you don't look at Anna as a mother figure, reread the book. Read the books. So there's that. I like how he treats Armistead. I like how he treats the straight men in the books as well. They're not all perfect. There's Beecham, who's disgusting and reminds me of every straight male archetype that I hate. But then there's Brian, who, represents those awesome guys who are, I like to say, as the old pin in the 90s would say, straight but not narrow. Look at my collar. Oh my God. No editing. Oh, whatever. Let me just open this up like a slut. Whatever, we're good. It's not so bad. So, we are talking about San Francisco in the 70s. I might as well show some skin for you. That's the other thing, too, though, the way the book deals with sex, the way even the miniseries dealt just ever so slightly with it. And let's talk about that, too, how the miniseries was, like, controversial. Ooh. And then you watch it now, it's so benign when it comes down to it. It's, like, almost embarrassing that people had a fit about it. But those were the times. I mean, we're sort of going back to those times now anyway, but that's a whole other story. I had to do something about that music because that song was like stuck. I just played Sylvester the whole time. I was like, today's song is about Sylvester, girl, and here we are. Getting back to Anna too, I forgot to say that she has a garden, and within the garden is pot. And she'll roll a joint for everybody who moves into the place, and she'll pin it on the door. But something tells me that she's free and open with it anyway. I feel like if you lived at Barbary Lane, you didn't have to buy weed. I'm just saying. Probably not. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't mind if you go pick. I love this song. Anyway, so getting back to Barbary Lane, that's where they live. That's the name of the street they live on. It's, to me, like this place that you want to live at. You know, it's an apartment house with different like units in it, but and a rooftop, and just kind of fantastical. And the stuff that they get into is very like some of its time. I mean, the books range; they go from the 70s into like the 90s, and you know, AIDS eventually plays a huge part in it, and as it did in San Francisco in general. I remember when I was a kid, my uncle, I mean, he lost so many friends. Oh my God. My uncle, my Aunt Mary Lou, who lived out there, she lost so many friends. It's like unbelievable. But the book is hopeful too. The book series, I should say, because this is no spoiler, because one of the later titles is Michael Tolliver Lives. I mean, at the end of one of the other books, you pretty much assume that he's not going to make it. But then, hey, lo and behold, just by the title alone, you know he lived, which is amazing. I mean, and that book is great too. I like the later, because he wrote a whole series first, and then sort of said he was stopping, and then years later returned to it, which is just so fun for us fans, you know. And they're great. They're excellent. The last one, Mona of the Manor, I believe it's called. She's in England, and it's like a pre-story. I don't want to spoil anything, just because if you haven't read the books, there's a whole story there. But that was a great one too. They're actually all pretty fantastic. So, in my estimation, he should just keep going. I hope he don't stop. You never know, though. I mean, it's up to him. Him and his husband live in England now, so they're just living life. I don't blame them one bit. Which I think, in my mind, the hope for all fans of his is that he just keeps writing forever, because I'll read it all. But we'll see. So anyway, Tales of the City is a very special thing to me. The series. I wish they would make more movies, just because they're fun to watch. PBS, if it wasn't for the Michigas about the original one, probably would have made the whole series, and that would have been great. But God forbid, two men are shown in bed together. I mean, it was like, that's really all it was. Nothing happened. The Showtime ones that were later actually got pretty racy. I was watching Further Tales. I was like, damn. I mean, not racy, you know what I'm saying? But they show nudity, full frontal on men, which is absolutely insane. Of course, they're flopping around. They never show, like, whatever, because that maybe is porno or whatever. So stupid. But they can show women topless. Laura Linney is topless in that for the Tales of the City thing. Anyway, we'll cut this off here and just say Armistead Maupin is a hero of mine, an amazing writer. I'm actually going to spotlight him later on in June. I want to do my whole Heroes of Pride series, and he's certainly one. So if you haven't read his books, please go out and pick one up. Start with Tales of the City, then read that series. If you don't like to read, watch the... Oh, that's what I was going to say too. I've been listening to, I got off Audible, there's a set of the audiobook where he reads them, which is really fun to hear him read the books. It's like fantastic, so worth the effort for that. So thanks for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If you made it this far and you're not subscribed, that's weird. So please do so. So Armistead, San Francisco, love you, and thanks for writing these books that not only inspired people but definitely saved their lives. So bye everyone, take care.